Hi, my name is Alexandra Jones, and I'm going to be presenting on assessing sports nutrition knowledge among collegiate athletes and coaches. To give you a little background information, the National Collegiate Athletic Association includes nutrition as a component of athletic performance and recovery that affects more than 465,000 student athletes. Concordia College has 22 varsity sports, 11 male sports, and 11 female sports that consist of more than 550 student athletes that participate in Concordia College athletics, and more than 40 athletic coaches who are there to push and help their athletes succeed and grow not only in their sport, but just in school in general. When you have such a high population of student athletes and even collegiate coaches who are affected by nutrition alone, this results in a surge of nutrition information from credible and non-credible sources for these student athletes and the collegiate coaches. The purpose of this needs assessment was to determine the nutrition knowledge, sources of nutrition information, and the best way to distribute sports-related nutrition information to Concordia College athletes and coaches. A little background on the assessment measure that was used in the study. A total of 525 Concordia College athletes and 40 coaches were eligible to participate in the study. The coaches included in the study were head coaches, assistant coaches, as well as strength and conditioning coaches. Inclusion criteria for both surveys included being 18 years of age or older and being a current Concordia College athlete or coach in the athletic program. The survey was provided to all athletes via their Concordia issued email, and then a separate email was provided to all of the athletic coaches via their Concordia issued email. Data collection took place over a 2-week span from November 30th to December 14th, 2020. Both surveys consisted of a demographic section, which featured 3 questions. Participants reported their sex, what sport that they were involved with, which could be multiple, and then the year in school, or the number of years that they had been coaching at Concordia. The survey also included questions about nutrition resources used, perceived knowledge of basic nutrition for athletes and coaches, and then utilization of a registered dietitian or utilization of a coach by their specific athletes, and then as well as how participants would like to receive sports-related nutrition resources, which featured 5 questions for the student athletes and then 6 questions for the collegiate coaches. To assess sports-related nutrition knowledge, a section of questions that consisted of 9 multiple choice questions for athletes and 7 questions for coaches was provided. Now I am going to zoom in on the results section to go over that a little bit closer. All right. So starting off with the student athletes, results indicated that the most common ranking of sports-related nutrition knowledge among athletes, so this is their perceived nutrition knowledge, was a 7 out of 10. This was 25% of the time. Overall, their mean score on the basic nutrition knowledge questions was a 5.69 out of 9. Meaning that participants received on average a score of 63% on basic nutrition knowledge. As seen in figure 2, a paired samples t-test determined a significant difference between perceived and actual sports-related nutrition knowledge. So you can see that for student athletes, their perceived knowledge of sports nutrition was higher than their actual nutrition knowledge that was determined through the survey with those 9 multiple choice questions. Descriptive statistics revealed student athletes use credible sources of nutrition information only 15% of the time. And the most utilized source of nutrition information among the athletes was specific sport coaches and strength and conditioning coaches, which was 35% at the time. So you can see this in figure 1. Non-credible sources are determined with the orange bars, and then the blue bars would be considered non-credible or non-reliable sources of nutrition information that student athletes use. In regard to desired sources of nutrition information, individual counseling and newsletters were of most interest for student athletes. This can be seen in table 1. As you can see, the newsletters showed that students were very interested in that, as well as the individual counseling, which were the top 2. And then overall, 97% of student athletes stated that they would utilize a registered dietitian in some way. This can be seen in figure 3. So whether it was 3+ times per week or even once a semester, only 3% of student athletes stated that they would never utilize a registered dietitian if such a professional were available to them. Moving on to the collegiate coaches. So descriptive statistics show that the most common ranking of sports-related nutrition knowledge among collegiate coaches was a 7 out of 10. That was 26% of the time. So this was their ranking on their perceived knowledge of nutrition information. A paired sample t-test indicated a significant difference between perceived and actual sports-related nutrition knowledge for collegiate athletes. So this can be seen in figure 5. As you can see, perceived nutrition knowledge is much higher than the score that they got on their basic nutrition knowledge from the survey that was conducted. This result is consistent with the result from the student athletes as well. So both student athletes and coaches have a higher perceived knowledge of basic nutrition knowledge than what their actual nutrition knowledge is. And then in regard to sources of nutrition information, credible sources were used 39% of the time by collegiate coaches. So this can be seen in figure 4 that shows the credible sources in orange again, and then the non-credible sources in blue. And then athletic coaches were most interested in learning more about nutrition via conferences or presentations. And then overall, 86% of collegiate coaches sampled have been utilized by their student athletes for nutrition advice. So one of the largest limitations with this study was the sample size, with only 168 student athletes and 21 athletic coaches represented in this study. The process by which student athletes were recruited for this study could also be considered a limitation. So since the survey was sent through an email chain that first started with the athletic director at Concordia College, then was sent to the athletic coaches, and finally forwarded to student athletes. Not all students may have received the survey link in the end. And then, so in conclusion, an evaluation of basic nutrition knowledge among student athletes and athletic coaches revealed that both groups were deficient in basic nutrition knowledge and had a much lower understanding of sports nutrition than they perceived. Student athletes and coaches both indicated interest in newsletters or group sessions as a means of receiving nutrition information. The development of a nutrition education intervention involving a registered dietitian could allow for greater basic understanding of nutrition from a credible source and possibly provide student athletes access to a registered dietitian. I want to thank Concordia College, the Concordia College Athletic Department, especially Rachel Burgesson, who is the athletic director who coordinated distribution of the survey and encouraged involvement by athletic teams, and to the coaches and student athletes who participated in the research. If you want any further information or have any further questions, you can contact me at the email in the lower left-hand corner. Thank you for your time.